As many of you know, the Underground Railroad was not actually a railroad.
It was, in fact, a network of meeting places, secret routes, passageways, and safe houses used by slaves in the U.S. to escape slaveholding states.
The Underground Railroad was started in the 1780s, but didn't get its name until William Still coined the term in the 1830s. It ran until 1863, ending due to the Emancipation Proclamation.
Conductors and others who assisted in the freeing of slaves were often former slaves themselves or people who opposed slavery, including Quakers, some Dunkers, Mennonites, and Shakers. They were later joined by theologically radical wings of Baptism and Methodism that helped to strengthen the Underground Railroad and make it more elaborate.
One very well-known conductor of the Underground Railroad was Harriet Tubman, a former slave who returned to slave states 19 times and gave more than 500 slaves their freedom. She would use a pistol to threaten anyone who lost hope and wanted to turn back.
Harriet Tubman was born into slavery in Maryland in 1820 and successfully escaped slavery in 1849. This makes it even more heroic that she risked her life and freedom so many times to free both family members and other slaves from plantations, eluding bounty hunters seeking a reward of $40,000 for her capture.
Another significant figure in the history of the Underground Railroad was William Still. Known as the father of the Underground Railroad, he was one of the chief conductors of the Underground Railroad in Pennsylvania. He fought to abolish slavery and provide African Americans and northern enclaves with civil rights. He believed that the Underground Railroad could encourage the race and efforts of elevation.
William Still would interview slaves seeking freedom by documenting where they came from, their final destination, as well as their pseudonym. During one of those interviews, he realized he was questioning his older brother Peter, who had been sold to another slaveholder after his mother escaped. William Still documented the lives of more than 1,000 slaves, his interviews kept secret until 1865 when slavery was abolished.
Levi Coffin, a Quaker, was another important figure in the Underground Railroad network. He began assisting fugitive slaves when he was just 15 years old. He opened a business that sold only goods produced by free laborers. He helped more than 3,000 slaves escape their masters and gain freedom in Canada, which was exempt from the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850.
Thomas Garrett was a Quaker station master and friend of Harriet Tubman. He is said to have aided about 2,750 fugitives prior to the Civil War. He provided his visitors with a place to stay, money, clothing, food, and even occasionally escorted them arm in arm to safer locations.
Some Native American groups assisted in the freeing of slaves as well, providing them with false identities and sometimes harbor. At that time, white men had been taking their land and pushing them out of their territory. This led them to feel that if the white men were taking their land, they would take their biggest industry, slaves.
The process of freeing slaves through the Underground Railroad was highly dangerous for both the slaves and those assisting them. It is commonly believed that conductors would pose as slaves and travel to a plantation to guide fugitives on their way. This is false, however. Slaves were left to find their own way out, only given assistance once in free states.
If someone was caught assisting in the freeing of slaves, they could be sentenced to jail for 6 months or a $1,000 fine if they were lucky. Death or a whipping if not, assuming they made it to court. Slaves had to escape their owners, usually by night, and headed north using the North Star as a guide. They risked a severe beating, dozens of lashes, burning, or hanging.
Once a slave reached their safe settlement, they would wait until someone secured safe passage. Often bribes would come into play. Sometimes they would settle in the first communities they arrived in, especially if they were free black settlements, but often they would continue on to Canada. Once they reached their final destination, interracial groups known as vigilance communities would assist them in establishing a new life.
Created using Powtoon.